All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. Today I'm going to take a quick look at 4-3 versus 4-2-5 structures, and I'll tell you the reason that I'm going into that when we get started. Make sure you check out some of our partners, GameStrat, sideline replay company we use here at Bishop Kenny High School. I've used them the last 5 or 6 years. If you're looking for highly reliable, highly affordable, great customer service, check out GameStrat. Dome Hats, the headwear company that I use for Play Fast Football. We use them at Bishop Kenny. Completely customizable online hat builder. You can design your own hat. All right, you can change the closure in the back. It can be snapback, fitted, Velcro. You can change the bill on the front. It can be flat, versa, whatever you want. Change the panels, change the styles. You design your own hat. Every hat has a story. Check out Dome. Baker Sporting Goods Company we use for our coaching gear, sideline gear, our practice gear, players gear, spirit packs. Our uniforms are distributed from them. All right, so if you're looking for a one-stop shop for all your program cloth, they also do a ton of other things big in the baseball world, so make sure you check out Baker Sports. JustPlay, which is the playbook software that we use at Bishop Kenny High School. I use them with my Patreon site. I use them if I do anything online with coaches, if I have any meetings online. That's how I diagram things. If I speak at clinics, that's how I diagram things. We use them for presentations, team meetings, installs on offense, defense. Unique teaching tool that allows you to use video and diagrams to quiz your players on game plans, installs, so make sure you check them out. Difference USA, the ultimate striking machine. You get thousands of reps. You don't need a partner. All right, you work on striking, elbows in, thumbs up, where your eyes need to be, what your hips need to do. Change the drills up. All right, you can add some bungees and attachments and things where you get more resistance to rolling your hips. If you want to learn how to strike violently, you have to strike violent. Why not do it with an attachment that goes right in your weight room, and you don't need another player there to hold a bag. You don't have to worry about injury. It's just you and the Difference USA pad, so check them out. All right, so the other day I did a Zoom call with one of my subscribers that wanted to talk about quarters defense, and basically he said that his coach wants to be a 4-3 team. So, you know, we kind of went through it, and I told him what my thoughts were, and there's nothing wrong if you want to be a 4-3 team. There's nothing wrong with that. 4-2-5, nothing wrong with that, right? I think where the similarities lie, especially like if we're talking about quarter structure, we weren't talking about you know, being a 3-deep team, being a rip-list match team. You know, we were talking about being a quarter structure team. If you're a 4-3 team, you're probably going to be more of a quarter structure team. Maybe you can spin the 3-deep, but you know, you're probably not playing rip-list match because you have a true Sam on the field, right? So, and that's one of the things that I want to get into. So, as an even front team, the one thing that's going to be similar is we're probably both going to set the 3 technique to what we consider, all right, more often than not, the run strength, or where we want to set the 3 technique in one-back sets. But when you're playing it over front, you're usually talking to the 3 technique. So you're setting the 3 technique to the side that you want to set them. So if we went back and looked at true 21 personnel, all right, a 4-3 team would set the 3 technique to the 3-man surface more often than not when they want to play their over concept, right? But the first difference that you'll probably notice with a 4-3 team and a 4-2-5 team would be versus a 21 personnel set, a 4-3 team would probably play a little bit more of a 9 technique with a Sam linebacker tucked in the box inside. That's a linebacker body. That's a guy that can play in the box. That's a guy that's probably working on inside the box reads more often than not, right? So we can still play our quarters toolbox behind it, all the same coverages versus this personnel that I would play. I don't think much is going to change, okay? But the difference to me, the first nuance would be a 4-2-5 team would probably play with a 7 technique, okay, a 2 linebacker middle, and then a 3rd safety nickel player that's more of a D-gap flat force player. Now, why are they going to choose to do that? Okay, we're still playing quarters. We haven't changed. Both teams can play quarters. We can still play half or whatever, you know, we can play sky, we can play cloud, we can play whatever we want. We can play quarters back there if we choose to. All right, there's a lot of different things we can do back there, and we can do them in both structures. Okay, but the 4-2-5 team is probably going to keep the nickel outside the box where he's used to not only fitting runs, but reading the things he's reading. We don't want to put the nickel in the box too often. A, he's probably not the type of player to be in the box. But B, even if he was, how often do we train him with his eyes and his reads and his keys in there? Right? So we're both going to play quarters. We're both going to play even fronts. We're both going to play over. We're both going to set the 3 where we want them. Okay? The difference is the 4-2-5 team is probably going to play with more of a 7 to control the C gap. All right? And the nickel outside. The 4-3 team would probably give you more. Now, they could give you head up and play different theories with the end. I'm not saying this has to be played. But the theory would be more of that 3 backers in the box and the end being more of that, all right, 9 technique or that outside shade on the tight end. Now, when a player gets removed, right, so the world we start to live in now is when you get 2 removed, and we're seeing that personnel grouping a bunch, okay, what the 4-3 team needs to determine, all right, if they're a quarters team, then the first adjustment you're probably going to make is you're going to bump the Sam out, and now we're going to go to that 4-2 box, okay? And if you want to stay in your quarters concepts, you're probably going to play some type of 2-read palms, right? So that you can keep the Sam apex tighter to the run fit, all right? If you wanted to play and remain true quarters, then the Sam probably needs to be wider, as he's probably going to match the first to the flat, right? So he probably needs to be wider, so you could do that also if you wanted to. All right, but the first adjustment that would probably look similar, and where people will get confused with 4-3, 4-2-5 is, I would think that if you wanted to be a quarters-based team and 2 removed, you were a palms or a 2-read team, the 4-3 team, all right, and the 4-2-5 team are going to look almost identical. The only thing that's going to be different is the person and the body type that's playing that spot. Now, the 4-3 team that wants to keep the integrity of numbers in the box and wants to dare you to throw the ball, okay, now I would think they're going to be more of some type of spin or some type of strong rotated cover 3, okay, so that they can keep the integrity of the 7-man box. 7, the only way the offense can block 7 is if both backs block for the quarterback. Probably going to be +1 in most of the runs, right? But we're probably going to get limited to maybe man-free, 3 deep, or single high structures a lot of the times out there. All right, the one thing they could do in the quarters world if they want to, and I could certainly see this, is I could see them playing, leaving that box, all right, and playing a man deal outside, and letting the Sam just be a palms player, so he's the swing deep of 3, okay, but now the Mike also has to match 3 vertical if you're playing middle of the field open. So I could see them leaving that structure, possibly walking down tighter and playing this man. So we do it in the 4-2-5 all the time because of RPOs and other deals. And in our split field coverages, even in our tight front 3-3 stack stuff or 3-3 broken stack, we allow our guys to play man and tuck the Sam tighter to the box. We don't ever tuck them for us because it's, you know, the personnel that we use, we don't ever really tuck them inside the box, but we will get them tighter to try and discourage the team, you know, teams from running the ball because there's too many bodies in there. But I could certainly see a 4-3 team doing that, right? Your 4-2-5 teams, you know, generically speaking, are almost always going to be that look right there, right? So they're almost always going to be nickel apex, quarters toolbox. First adjustment we go to is palms to reach. That's why we play it. We love having that body on the field in space. We think he's a better player in space than the Sam, right? The 4-3 teams love having the Sam versus 21 personnel, bigger bodies. We think he's a better player for that than a nickel, right? All great arguments, all logical arguments, but it's really the bodies on the field when it comes to certain structures. It's the bodies on the field that we are taking a look at, all right, more so than it is the structure of it itself, right? Where it gets kind of funky, and this is the first thing I had to tell. All right, I had to ask the coach when he said they want to be a 4-3 team. As soon as you get, again, assuming you're not making personnel changes, right? I know that we could personnel all these things and change our people and do those things, but if you're talking about high school-based structures, and we're talking about 4-3, my first question was, how do you play 3-by-1? Because now you've got a Sam that is truly a Sam linebacker, okay? So most 4-3 personnel teams, all right, when it comes to 3-by-1 adjustments usually end up in some type of world where they've got to borrow the backside safety to poach 3 vertical, and now we end up in a world where we get a lot of man deals with the corner and the will back here, right? So that's one of the first things you're always going to have to look at, because our Sam is not a guy that we want running with verticals. He's not a guy that we want matching vertical routes, right? If he's a 4-3 Sam, that's not why we're playing him there. It's not why we're playing that structure, right? So we have to know that if we are playing that structure and we see 10 personnel, all right, the first thing you're probably going to say is, well, coach, we're going to sub out. Well, if you live in a world where you can sub all the time in high school, God bless you, okay? If you have the multiplicity to carry sub-packages, and you have the bodies to carry sub-packages, and you have the coaches that can get all that done, God bless you. Not impossible, but I think it's a little bit tougher in the high school world to play that sub-game. I think we're always, at least me, my opinion, and again, just an opinion, it's not right or wrong, it's just my opinion. I think we live more in a hybrid world in high school where we're trying to get kids that we can find to play a bunch of different sets, and maybe short yardage, some deals, nickel deals, long yardage we can sub out. But I think base downs in high school fluctuate so much, run and pass. The balance is so much different than it is in the college game with the personnel on the field. I think we need to play more with hybrid players. So if we're in a 4-3 world with a Sam, we're either going to borrow the backside safety, okay, or maybe we could play some type of 3 deep or stump type structures where, you know, maybe the Sam could be out over 3 and we're going to bring somebody down over 2, okay, and then we're going to possibly borrow the backside, or I'm not borrow, but we're going to spin. So we could be in some type of 3 deep world, right? Maybe we could be in the 3 cloud or the roll world, so maybe we could play the corner there. We could play the safety here, all right? He would be between 2 and 3, and we're going to spin to the middle. But most of the things we're going to do are probably going to involve the backside safety having to either go to the middle, poach 3, or do something. All right, the one theory I can think of, all right, is you could possibly walk the Sam out on 2, all right, put the strong safety or whoever that body type is over 3, and now play, all right, a version of stump, okay, but you're probably going to need one more backer out there underneath number 3, all right, but the version of stump would be, in the easiest way for me to clarify it, and if you don't want the backside safety involved, if 3 is vertical, then this is going to turn almost into cover 3 where we're going to be there and he's going to have to midpoint that. We're going to try and knock 2 down before we go to the flat, okay, and then we would probably have to be in a world, if the backside safety is going to stay over here, then we would probably have to kick this a little bit to get the mic closer to 3. He's going to be the inside hook player of 3. Doesn't necessarily have to match 3 vertical, all right, but he's going to make 3 go a little bit wider, go over the top of him. If 3 didn't go vertical, then this would turn almost back into quarters, right? So if we were playing this modified version of stump and 3 was out, well, now the strong safety is going to lean to 2, corner is going to lean to 1, and this is going to look almost like a quarter structure, right? So in my opinion, that is one of the ways that you could doctor it up a little bit to not have to use this safety to the middle of the field. But more often than not, a 4-3 team, if they face 3 open, is going to have to borrow the backside safety. Whereas the 4-2-5 world, which was kind of built for a lot of these structures, we now have the convenience, because we play with a nickel, we now have the convenience to do some different things out here because we are okay with him matching, all right, we are okay with him matching the vertical routes of number 2. That's the body type, that's the type of player, he's a safety. So now if we were to play, all right, stubby or mix, that I call it, some people call it mini, now if we could play 2 read off of 2 and 3, because we play Meg Man on number 1, because number 1 in trips almost never gets the ball, especially to the field. So we play Meg Man, solo that out, tell the corner he's got to eliminate it, and then, you know, for us, we leave the safety on the backside with the corner to get 3-on-2 or 2-on-1 on the backside, and now the mic is bumped a little bit, and now these 3 guys just play palms off of, sorry, if this was 3-by-1, you wouldn't have 2 backs. So these guys play palms off of those 3, right? So it's the same as coverage deal for us. We don't need the backside safety borrowed, right? We have more options in coverage because we're playing with a nickel. So that's where the 4-3 structure, 4-2-5 structure, 10 personnel, coverages, you know, a few more options to 3-by-1, especially 3-by-1 open, simply because of the body type we're playing with and what we are okay with asking him to do in coverage, right? Now, where the 4-3 world is probably better for you is, you know, you start getting like 12 personnel, or you start getting, and again, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, coach, these are all personnel deals. I wouldn't play that group. We would play a different group. Well, I've seen a lot of high school teams, and we just played one this year in the playoffs, where they went to different formational theories with the same personnel. So I couldn't see who was coming in. It wasn't 10, 11, it was the same personnel, and they went to some under center, tight end, wing, nub stuff, and then the same guys were good enough to kind of line out and be in the slot. It wasn't true 10 personnel, but they could do multiple things, so I couldn't match the personnel. So now, you know, if you were living in the 4-3 world, I think you've got a little bit better chance now, depending on how you want to do it. All right, I think you've got a little bit better chance with these three in the box now. You've got better numbers. Are you comfortable with the will linebacker being a curl flat player in your quarters game if he's a B-gap player? All right, so that, you know, if you wanted to play quarters technically without locking it, without playing a man quarter deal, just true quarters, or the way I teach true quarters, these are your curl flat players, okay? He doesn't have as big of an issue because he is more of a C-gap player, or we could take that away from him and do things with the end to get him a little wider. But if we want to be 4-3 in nature, 7 in the box to these type theories, well, this guy's going to have to match something to the flat, all right, because I'm flat-footed reading off of him, and I've got him vertical. And if he's not vertical, I'm going to rob posted curl of 1, right? So I think now, in the 4-3 world, I think you live a little bit more in that realm where you could possibly do that, because with the Sam lined up in the box here, we can afford to solo the Mike up and bump the will back over here, right? So I think now in the 12 personnel world, or tight ends away from passing strength, you have a few more options. Where we always get stuck, and this is just me, all right, personally, when we are a 4-2-5 team, all right, the nickel is always going to end up outside the tight end somewhere, and that side's fine. But now we end up with more of that 4-2 box where the will is still a B-gap player, all right, but he can't afford to bump all the way over the way we teach it in our 4-2-5. Now, you could teach this as a 2x2 balance set and say, look, when we get that set, we're going to go ahead and solo the mic, bump the will a little bit, because that's how we would line up to 2x2 removed, right? We would walk the will out, we would play palms. So I could see us possibly getting into that world. But for me, I was always most comfortable doing something where I would lock the backside, all right, take the will out of the deal of even thinking about, get them where we're comfortable playing, all right, versus 2 back sets, or, you know, if it's 12 personnel and we're thinking more run game, get the will a little bit more comfortable versus those sets being in the box where he normally is. And again, just to paint the picture, if they gave us 2 remove to the will, we do have to remove, so the will has to be able to play palms from out here, all right? So I'm not saying we don't ever remove the will, but for us, the way we do our 4-2-5 stuff, any heavy run structures, we try to keep the 4-2 box as much as we possibly can. So we try to keep that box as much as we possibly can. So we usually end up in some type of lock world out here where he's got to play man-to-man on the tight end. And if the tight end blocks, he's going to have to get down there and be some type of force player or extra hat in the run game. Or if it's into the boundary, sometimes we will allow our guys to play cover 2 into the boundary, all right, if we think he can be a run support player into the boundary. So I think structure-wise, I think the 4-3 is a little bit better for these. Obviously, the bodies on the field are better, all right, but I think the alignment of it and how you teach it more often than not, I think the 4-3 is better for some of these heavier personnel groupings, or how you want to line up to it, because I think you're a little bit more comfortable lining up in that structure, because that's kind of how you teach it versus 2 back, 21 personnel day 1. Whereas the 4-2-5, we're a little bit more comfortable lining up in that structure, right? So a little bit different. 3 backers in the box versus 2 backers in the box, where we play the Sam or the nickel, right? So to me, the biggest difference is coverage options. You know, when the coach asked me, he wanted to talk about quarters and quarters toolbox and 3x1 stuff and palms and 2 removed and 2 read stuff. And, you know, my deal was, Coach, we can talk about all that stuff, and it's not much different 4-3, 4-2-5 until we get into the 3x1 world. Are there some other nuances where it's a little bit different? Yes. All right, but for the most part, it's even front, over front. We're doing a lot of the same things. 2 removed, we're going to play palms. You're probably going to remove the Sam. If you don't want to remove the Sam, now your coverage options become more single high, man free, 3 deep. All right, maybe you can play man and tuck the Sam in the box. So we went through all those adjustments and how you could do it from the 4-3 as opposed to the 4-2-5. But what I told him he was going to have to work on the most was how are you going to handle 3-by-1 open if you're not making personnel changes, right? So that's the biggest, the biggest difference to me is the coverage options you lose from a Sam to a nickel or a nickel to a Sam, right? So I like to do videos like this all the time because I think it's confusing for some people sometimes, especially younger guys or guys that look at these structures and say that, 4-3 has to be, like I think most people think 4-3 has to be, regardless of what the offense does, I think 4-3 has to look like this, right? That's why we say 4-3. It needs to look like 4-3. Well, again, most people that have been in the football world for a long time know that that doesn't mean exactly what 4-3 means. Doesn't mean you have to play over front. There's teams that play 4-3 from under fronts and different fronts, so it doesn't mean that you have to do any of those things. But at the same time, what you've got to be able to understand is the structure of it, what you're doing with the structure of it, all right, and how you're going to make adjustments to different sets. So to me, the way I look at the game, 4-3 just tells me, all right, that I'm playing 4 D linemen, I'm playing 3 LB bodies, and I'm playing 4 DBs. So what not only does it, yes, it tells me a little bit about the structure, but what it really tells me is what I need to do in coverage, the adjustments I need to make in coverage, simply because of the body types that I'm playing. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. If you're a new football coach, if you're somebody that's been doing it for a while, this is probably day one-ish for you. And again, how we do things and what my opinion is on 4-3, 4-2-5 is probably different than other people. It's just my opinion. All right, but hopefully this video helps, and hopefully you guys get a little bit better understanding of structures and coverage potential behind it with the body types that you're playing. So if you're not a subscriber, click that subscribe button. Turn your notifications on. You'll know every time we do a video. Ring that bell. You'll get an alert every time a video comes out, every time we go on YouTube Live. Good chance I'll be on YouTube Live this weekend. We have a 3-day weekend at the school that I am working at, so good chance I'll be on YouTube Live this weekend. Also, did a virtual clinic last week, Type 3 high stuff. If you're interested in that, I recorded it. Tell you how you can get it, what you need to do to get it if you're interested in the Type 3 high clinic. And I've got some virtual clinic things coming up where I'm getting ready to announce the speakers. I'm going to try and do 2 a month on Thursdays, 100 seats, Zoom meetings. Got a couple really good speakers that I'm getting ready to announce, so stay tuned for that. I appreciate everything you guys do for me and Play Fast Football. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. I'll see you next time.